My son mocked me in a restaurant, so I let everyone hear what he said. It started at a table near the window. Old cafe. Same place we always went. But something was different that day. Not the smell, not the chipped mug, not the waitress who still called me hun. It was him, my son, Tom. He walked in late, phone in one hand, ego in the other. Didn't hug me, didn't look me in the eyes, sat down, exhaled like being there was a chore. I smiled anyway, like always. I wore the lavender coat, the one he used to say made me look like a queen. He didn't even notice. "You're still coming to the birthday dinner?" he asked, not inviting, informing. "Yes, if I'm welcome." He shrugged. "Your family, of course." He didn't mean it. I could hear it, feel it, like a cold draft under the door. The waitress poured my coffee, black. He smirked. "Still drinking that bitter stuff?" I laughed softly. Some things stay the same. But he wasn't laughing. He leaned back, loud sigh. "Why do you always sit in this booth?" I looked around. Same booth as always. Tom and I had eaten pancakes here when he was 5. He once spilled syrup on my lap and cried for an hour. Back then, he loved me out loud. Now, I was just noise. He scrolled through his phone, then looked up and said it. Said it loud, said it like a joke, said it, so the table next to us paused their forks. She just loves attention, pretends she's some kind of martyr. Classic mom move. And then he laughed, out loud. A sharp, hollow laugh that bounced off the walls. My cheeks burned, my coffee shook. The waitress glanced over. I stared at him, but he was still laughing, still performing. That's when I made the choice, the kind you don't unmake. I could have stayed quiet, I always did, but not this time. Because this wasn't just a bad joke. It was years of swallowing silence. Years of, "Don't worry about me." Years of, "I'll be fine." I picked up my spoon, stirred my coffee, and spoke louder than I ever had. "I changed your diapers, took double shifts to buy your sneakers, held your hand when your father died, sat in this booth every Sunday, waiting for you to come back." The table next to us stopped chewing. His phone stopped scrolling. So did his smirk. And me? I just sipped my coffee, bitter and bold, just how I like it. "My name's Ruth. I'm 73. I've raised 3 kids, buried a husband, sewn dresses by hand. I've been kind, and I've been quiet. But today, I decided to be loud, keep reading. Because the story doesn't end with a spoon in my coffee. It ends with a room that finally heard me. His name is Tom, my son, my only one. He used to hold my hand in crowded places. Now he texts me when he remembers. Birthdays. Maybe. We weren't always like this. There was warmth once. Chubby cheeks. Sticky fingers. "Mama, watch this." I watched everything. Every soccer game. Every fever. Every fall. He looked for me first. Always. Then came college. New friends. New voice. Suddenly my name didn't fit in his mouth anymore. Too heavy? Too plain? I brushed it off. He's growing, I told myself. But he'll come back. Spoiler, he didn't. He became someone else. The kind who sends you a gift card for Mother's Day. No note, no call. The kind who laughs a little too loudly when his friends joke about clingy moms. I laughed too. Back then, I thought it was harmless. Just a phase. Boys drift, men return. But time kept passing. And with it, so did I. At least in his eyes. He stopped asking for advice, started giving it. Unasked, unkind. "You should get out more, Mom. You should try being less emotional. You should be grateful we even invite you." Those words, they don't land softly. They bruise. But I never fought back. Not really. Just smiled, made casseroles, waited for him to remember who I was. I showed up, every time. Birthdays, holidays, last-minute babysitting. Always ready, always quiet. Because that's what moms do, right? We shrink, we bend, we bite our tongue. Until one day, it bleeds too much. Last month, he called. "Let's get dinner," he said. "Just us." I wore my best coat. Tried that new lipstick Grace gave me. Practiced smiling in the mirror. Stupid, I know. But I wanted to look like someone worth showing up for. The restaurant was fancy. His choice. Not my kind of place. But I didn't say that. We sat, ordered, small talk. He scrolled. I pretended not to notice. Then, out of nowhere, that joke, that tone, that word, martyr. Everyone at the table next to us heard it. He laughed. I died a little. Here's what they didn't see. The bills I paid so he could chase dreams. The nights I skipped dinner so he could eat. The jobs I turned down. The life I put on hold. All for him. But to him, I'm just extra. Just background. Just too much. Now the stage is set. The audience is watching. And this time, I'm not going quiet. After the joke, he didn't even flinch. He just smirked, took another bite of steak, like he hadn't just ripped my heart out and seasoned it with salt. He was comfortable doing it. Too comfortable. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't out of character. This was who he'd become. Or maybe, who he always was when he thought no one important was watching. The waiter walked over, asked if we needed anything. I needed air, but I smiled and said, "No, thank you." Because that's what I do. I make things easier, even when I'm the one bleeding. Tom leaned back, wiped his mouth with the cloth napkin. Then he said, "You know, Mom, maybe you like playing the victim." It wasn't even a question. It was a jab. Sharp, meant to humiliate. The table behind us went quiet. A fork hit a plate. Someone cleared their throat. He didn't notice, or he didn't care. "You always make things heavier than they are," he added. "Seriously, you used to be fun." Used to be? I stared at him. This man with my son's eyes. But not my son. Not anymore. I remembered the kid who used to crawl into bed with me during storms. "Can I sleep here, Mama?" Now I'd need a storm to get him to look at me like a person. "You've changed," I whispered. "What?" He looked annoyed, like I was messing up his dinner. "You've changed," I repeated. "But I guess I did too. I used to matter to you." He laughed, shook his head. "You're doing it again, twisting everything." And just like that, I was the problem. Classic. I looked around. No one was eating anymore. They were listening. Eyes flicked toward our table. A server pretended to refill a water glass nearby. But she was tuned in. Everyone was, except him. He was too busy being right. Too busy being cruel. "You think everyone owes you something," he said, as if being a mom gives you a lifetime pass. He was raising his voice now, drawing even more attention. But this time, I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I just looked at him, looked through him, and I said, "I don't want a lifetime pass, Tom. I just wanted to be invited without being insulted." His face changed. The words hit somewhere, but not enough. Because what he said next, it burned. "You're lucky we even invite you at all." That was it. That was the sentence that shattered it. The ice I'd been walking on for years finally cracked, and I fell through. I didn't cry, not then. I just sat there, back straight, heart loud. But inside, something shifted. Something woke up. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of making him uncomfortable. I was done with being easy to ignore. He didn't call after that dinner. Not a text, not a check-in, not even a lazy made it home, just silence. The kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes. I waited. 2 days, then 4. By day 7, I stopped checking my phone every hour. By day 10, I gave up. I used to think silence was peace. But silence with distance? That's just absence wearing nice shoes. Then came the family brunch, Rebecca's idea. "Just us," she said. She meant just them. I was the accessory, like a salt shaker on the table, there, but barely noticed. They sat me at the corner. Same table, different placement. Far from the center, far from the laughter. Rebecca was on her phone. Tom scrolled through his. Jeremy scrolled faster. I sat there with my hands folded and a smile that hurt my face. No one asked how I was. No one looked me in the eye, unless they needed me to pass something. "Can you hand me the ketchup, Mom?" Like I was room service. Then I heard it. Not loud, but loud enough. Tom leaned in toward Jeremy, said something about my overreactions, called me emotional background noise. I looked down at my plate. Eggs gone cold, just like everything else. I excused myself, went to the restroom, not because I needed to, but because I needed out. Needed 4 walls and a locked door. Needed a place to breathe without hearing my worth reduced to a punchline. I looked in the mirror. My lipstick was fine. My blouse is still neat. But my eyes? Tired. Not the kind of sleep fixes. The kind you get when you've been erased in slow motion. I splashed water on my face, whispered to myself, "You're not crazy, you're not wrong." Then I walked out like nothing had cracked. Because that's what women like me do. We endure, we show up, we blend in. Even when our hearts are screaming. Back at the table, they were laughing. Something about a meme. I sat down. No one noticed I'd been gone. Rebecca told a story about her client. Everyone listened. I shared a small win from my garden. No one reacted. Not even a nod. Invisible. That's what I'd become. Present, but not present. Alive, but not invited. I stirred my tea, watched the steam fade like my presence in that room, and I thought, they really forgot who used to sit at the head of this table. I didn't complain. I adjusted. But inside, something was breaking. Into something new. Not bitter, not loud, just clear. It was a Tuesday. Quiet, cloudy. One of those in-between days. I made brownies. Not store-bought. My old recipe. The one Tom used to beg for after school. The house smelled like cinnamon and warmth. I packed a few in a tin, tied it with ribbon, and dropped by unannounced. I'd done it 100 times before. Tom opened the door. Surprised. Not happy, just surprised. "Oh, hey, Mom." No hug, no, "Come in." Just stood there, holding the door half open like I was selling magazines. "I made your favorite," I said. Held out the tin. He took it. Didn't even look at it. Just set it down on a table, still closed. Didn't offer me in. Didn't ask how I was. Rebecca came in from the hallway, stopped when she saw me, smiled, tight and polite. Not real. "Hi. Didn't know you were stopping by." I smiled back. "Just a quick visit. Wanted to drop these off." Then Tom said it. To her, not to me. Loud enough so I could hear, but not looking at me. "She just gets like this sometimes." "Like this?" Rebecca gave a little laugh. Soft. Pitying. Like I was some confused neighbor with nowhere to go. I stood there. Felt my cheeks burn. Not from shame, but realization. That's how they saw me now. As something to manage. To tolerate. To explain away. I cleared my throat. "Well, I'll get going." No one stopped me. I walked back to my car, hands shaking, heart calm, calmer than expected. Because something clicked. It wasn't one moment. It was hundreds. Stacked like bricks. This one? Just the final one. The one that turned my silence into a decision. They forgot whose name was on the deed. They forgot who paid for Tom's braces, who sat through every school concert and stood in the rain during soccer games, who stayed awake when he was sick, who stayed silent when he said nothing on Mother's Day. I didn't raise a child to turn into a stranger, but here we were. I drove home with the radio off. No tears. Just thoughts. Like chess pieces, starting to move. Not out of revenge, out of self-respect. Because when they mock you in public, when they rewrite your love as weakness, you stop playing the part they gave you and start writing a new script. I got home, poured tea, sat in the quiet. No TV, no music. Just the clock ticking and the old house creaking like it was listening. I looked around. Really looked. This was mine. The kitchen. The walls. The windows Harold installed himself. The garden we planted every spring. Even the coffee stain on the floor by the fridge. Every inch of this place held a piece of me. And yet, they acted like I was just passing through. Like I was some extra in their story. No, not anymore. I pulled out the old file box, the one I hadn't touched in years. Inside, deeds, receipts, loan agreements, bank statements, and a letter from Harold. He always told me, plan ahead, even if no one sees you doing it. So I did. I sat at the kitchen table with a pen and a pad, wrote one word at the top of the page, enough. I started listing assets, what I owned, what I owed, what I could sell, what I could leverage. My mind went sharp, focused in a way it hadn't been in years. Next, I called Mr. Hanley, Harold's old friend, a quiet accountant with a memory like a vault. "Mr. Hanley, it's Margaret. I need a meeting." Pause. Then his warm voice. "Of course, dear. Tomorrow?" "Yes. Tomorrow's perfect." I hung up. took a breath. That was the first domino. Later that evening, Grace called. Didn't mention the restaurant, didn't mention the brownies. Just said, "Can you watch the boys on Friday? I've got a thing." I paused, then said calmly, "No, I'm busy." She didn't respond right away, caught off guard. "You okay?" I smiled into the silence. Never better. That was the second domino. I spent the week decluttering. Not the house, my life. Pulled out every box, drawer, and photo album. Sorted what mattered from what didn't. Kept only the things that held me, not them. I found my old sewing machine, dusted it off, plugged it in. The hum of the motor? It was like breathing again. That night, I made curtains for the guest room, bright yellow ones, just because. Then came the jam. I hadn't made it since Harold passed, but I had fruit, sugar, thyme, and now, a reason. Plum and lavender, jarred, labeled, and placed neatly on the shelf, just like old times. Except this time, it wasn't for them, it was for me. Margaret wasn't gone. She was just resting. And now? Now she was stretching her arms, standing tall, and remembering who she used to be. No revenge, no drama, just quiet decisions, made in a quiet house, by a woman they underestimated. The morning of my meeting with Mr. Hanley, I wore my Sunday coat. Not for fashion, for armor. It still smelled like lavender sachets, still had that small tear in the lining from the day Harold and I danced in the rain like fools. I used to hide that tear. That morning, I let it show. Mr. Hanley greeted me like an old friend, because that's exactly what he was. His office hadn't changed in 20 years, still had the photo of his grandkids, still had that bowl of stale mints. Comforting, really. We talked numbers, paperwork, property lines. I showed him the house deed with my name on it, just mine. I watched his eyebrows rise. He nodded slowly. "Well, Margaret, you've got more leverage than they think." Exactly what I needed to hear. We drafted a plan. Small, clean steps. No drama, no flames, just boundaries. Legal, quiet, airtight. I wasn't planning to ruin anyone, just remind them who raised them, who paid the bills, who held the line when everything else crumbled. On the way home, I stopped at the community center. There was a flyer for a beginner's ceramics class. 10 weeks, Tuesday evenings. Normally, I would have passed right by it. Too tired, too busy. This time, I signed up. Back at home, I started organizing the attic, pulled out photo albums, one by one, old birthdays, school plays, camping trips where I carried backpacks bigger than my son's, and still smiled. I kept whispering to myself as I turned pages. I didn't complain. I adjusted, over and over again, like a spell or a scar. Then I pulled out the box, the one with notes, letters, cards, drawings, Tom's handwriting, back when it was round and clumsy back then. "I love you, Mommy. You're the best cook ever. Sorry for breaking the vase." My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, I added a new note, plain paper, black pen. It read, "You forgot whose name was on the deed." I folded it, slipped it into the box, closed the lid. Symbolic? Yes. Petty? Maybe. But real? Absolutely. The next Sunday, Tom called, asked if I was free for lunch. No apology, no warmth, just an obligation. I said yes. But this time I picked the place, not their trendy cafe, not some noisy chain. No, the old diner with the cracked leather booths and quiet music. My place. I showed up 5 minutes early, ordered tea, sat by the window, felt the sun on my face. When they arrived, Grace looked surprised, like she expected me to still be licking my wounds. Tom didn't even make eye contact. They slid into the booth across from me. I smiled, sipped my tea. "Before we talk," I said calmly, "I want to say something." They blinked. I leaned in. "I'm not the one who needs fixing. You are." Silence. Just the clink of a spoon in someone else's cup nearby. Then I sat back and waited. Let them squirm, let them stew. They could mock me all they wanted. But now, they were playing on my field. If you've ever felt pushed aside by the people you gave everything to, you're not alone. Subscribe. Tom thought it was lunch. I knew it was war. Not with yelling, not with slammed doors, but with clarity and porcelain. They picked at their food like they were doing me a favor. Tom asked if I'd thought more about the move. Grace added, "It'll be safer for you, Margaret." Safer. Like I was one bad night away from breaking. I smiled, stirred my tea, sipped it slowly. Then I pulled out the folder, my folder, laid it on the table, neatly. "You forgot whose name is on the deed," I said gently. Tom's fork paused midair. "I've spoken with a lawyer. Everything is in my name, always has been." Grace blinked. Tom cleared his throat. I let the silence hang. I continued, "I've also revised my will. You'll get what's fair." Another pause. "And only what's fair." I didn't flinch, didn't gloat, just calmly flipped the page. "I'll be managing my affairs from now on." Their faces were a cocktail of shock, guilt, and fear. Good. Back at home, I started phase 2. Took down the photos of Tom and Grace in the living room, replaced them with landscapes I'd painted years ago but never hung, not out of resentment, out of reclamation. I also got a new phone, one with voicemail that didn't automatically pick up. They'd have to leave messages now. No more barging into my peace. The next morning, I went to ceramics class, sat next to a woman named Carol who wore wild scarves and smelled like peppermint. She laughed like thunder, called me Mags. I didn't correct her. We sculpted bowls, badly, but each lump of clay felt like therapy. Each spin of the wheel, a whisper, "I'm still here." Later that week, I visited the community bank, moved some funds, set up a new account, private, protected, no shared access. I even subscribed to a meal kit, not because I needed help cooking, because I wanted to try something new, for me. Small acts, each one a brick, a boundary, a reminder. I am not your project. I am not your burden. I am not gone. They didn't notice at first. Tom still sent passive-aggressive texts. Grace still spoke to me like I was a ticking clock, but I didn't react, didn't explain, just kept moving. One day, I left my old cardigan on the bus, the one I used to wear in their house. I didn't miss it. I bought a new one. Bright red. A woman at the pharmacy said, "That color suits you." I thanked her and believed it. This wasn't revenge, not yet. This was resurrection. Tom called me on Tuesday. His voice was softer. Maybe it was the silence I'd given him for days. "Hey, Mom, just checking in." I almost laughed. He never just did anything. "Everything okay?" he asked. I paused, then said, "Everything's finally peaceful." I could feel him trying to decode that. Good. They'd noticed. The cold tea, the unanswered messages, the missing Sunday lunch. I wasn't waiting around anymore. I wasn't sitting by the window, hoping someone remembered I existed. Grace left a voicemail the next day. "It's just that we're worried. You've been distant." I played it twice, not for the message, for the tone. She was nervous, and I hadn't even started. I didn't raise a child to turn into a stranger. But I wouldn't shrink myself just to feel familiar again. I kept the rhythm going. Carol from ceramics invited me to a poetry night. I went. Wore the red cardigan. They served cheap wine and stale crackers. I loved every second. Tom texted again. "We can stop by this weekend?" I replied, "I'm busy." No explanation. He didn't like that. He used to know everything about my life because I gave him access. Now he stood outside a locked door, noticed it was locked, but still didn't ask why. I donated the rocking chair from the corner, the one I used to sit in while waiting for their visits. Gone. Replaced it with a tall shelf for my books. Novels I never got to finish because someone always needed something. I reread Pride and Prejudice, out loud, to myself. Every chapter felt like reclaiming a part of me I'd left behind. The neighbors noticed too. Mrs. Patel asked, "You have visitors coming over?" I smiled. "No, just finally entertaining myself." She grinned, said, "About time." Even the dog on Maple Street barked differently. Maybe it was me. Maybe I'd changed my walk. Head up, step steady. I wasn't invisible anymore. Tom finally called again, this time, voice tight. "We're coming over. We need to talk." I answered, calm and clear. "No, Tom, I'm not available." Silence. Then, "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Click. They thought I'd lost my grip. What they didn't know was I was finally holding on to myself. The foundation of this plan was never rage. It was clarity. I'd spent decades avoiding disruption. Now I welcomed it. I wasn't loud, I wasn't cruel, but I was firm. They thought they could shrink me into silence, but I chose silence, not weakness. Tom's birthday was always a big deal, always. Balloons, barbecue, me baking that cursed lemon cake he never admitted he liked, but always finished. Even last year, I made it. Carried it down the block like it was sacred. Watched him cut it in silence, while Grace scrolled on her phone. This year, I didn't bake, didn't call, didn't text, didn't even send a card. I went to a movie instead. Alone, front row, extra butter on the popcorn. I didn't even know the title, just picked the next show playing. And when I walked out, I felt it. Light. They noticed. First, a text, then a call, then 3. I let them sit unanswered like old leftovers, spoiling in their own neglect. 2 days later, Grace showed up at my door. Hair perfect. Smile forced. I was just worried. We missed you. I looked her in the eyes, gently, like peeling off a bandage. I know. She stood there, waiting for me to break the silence, fill the space with excuses. But I didn't. I let the air between us speak for once. It said everything. Tom called that night, finally. Did we do something wrong? I wanted to laugh. Tom, I said softly, you just stopped doing what was right. He sighed, said he was under stress, that I was making this harder. Oh, the irony. You mocked me in front of strangers, I said. He tried to deny it. I was joking. Mom, don't be so sensitive. That word again. Sensitive. Like caring is a flaw. I spoke clearly, calm. Mocking someone who spent her life protecting yours, that's not a joke. He didn't respond. He didn't have to. I knew it landed. I hung up, not in anger, in peace. Because for the first time, I wasn't explaining myself to be understood. I was just done. That lemon cake? I baked it the next day, for myself and Carol. We ate it in my living room with hot tea and too much whipped cream. I wasn't celebrating Tom. I was celebrating clarity. The building went up for sale again. Same one where Emery's kitchen used to be, where I scrubbed dishes till my hands cracked, where they all used to laugh and call it our dream. Except our stopped including me the moment Harold died. Lisa and Tom were circling it, wanted to flip it for profit. Sentimental value, Tom told me over the phone. Real estate gold, Lisa added. They forgot I used to manage the books. I knew the margins, the debts, the leverage points, so I made a few calls. Quietly, efficiently. Mr. Hanley remembered me, still had my homemade jam jar in his office, said he'd back me if I could make a down payment. I pulled out the ledger. Years of jam sales, curtain hemming, dress stitching. I counted every dollar. $18,275, not much, but enough to open a door. 3 weeks later, the paperwork came through. I bought the building. Me, not the LLC. Tom was building behind everyone's back. Not Lisa with her fancy realtor friend. Just me. The deed came in the mail. Heavy envelope. Gold seal. I stared at it for 10 full minutes before opening it. Not because I was shocked, but because I wanted to savor the moment. I didn't tell them right away. Let them sweat. Watched as Lisa sent me the group message. We're closing the deal Friday. Drinks at ours after? I replied with just one line. That might be tricky. She called instantly. What do you mean? I bought it, I said calmly. Silence, then confusion, then that familiar tone, disbelief dripping with condescension. You, what? I bought the building 3 weeks ago. Tom called next. You can't be serious. I was. I am. I didn't gloat, didn't throw it in their faces. I just let them feel it. The power of being underestimated. The next week, I visited the property. Stood in the same corner where I used to bus tables. Same floor I once mopped until midnight. Now, mine. The new manager greeted me like royalty. Mrs. Emery, we're honored to have you on board. They don't know the full story, but they know respect. And I remembered what that felt like. That night, I made stew. Real stew. Carrots, potatoes, garlic. Not for a crowd, just for me. Because sometimes victory doesn't come with champagne. It comes with silence, comfort, and reclaimed space. It was Lisa's idea. Family brunch, she called it, Nice restaurant, white tablecloths, too many forks. I almost said no, but I didn't, because I had something to say, finally. And I wanted them all to hear it. Tom sat across from me, Lisa beside him, grandkids glued to their screens. They were all there, not for me, for the photo op. Perfect family, perfect smiles, perfect lies. Lisa raised her glass. To new beginnings. I lifted mine too, steady hands, calm breath. Cheers, I said, but inside, I was already walking to the edge. The waiter came to take our order. Tom joked about me needing the senior menu. Everyone laughed, except me. He turned to the waiter. She'll take something soft. Old folks don't chew well. That was it, the push I needed. I put down my glass, looked at Tom, held his gaze, and then, slowly, I smiled. Do you remember what you said to me when you were 12? His smile faltered. Lisa raised a brow. I leaned in, voice steady, volume just loud enough. You told me you wished I was dead. Silence. Forks paused midair. Even the toddler stopped tapping the table. You were angry I missed your soccer game. I was working double shifts because your dad had just lost his job. You slammed your door, screamed through it. You said I was a burden. Tom's face went pale. I didn't stop. I cried that night, on the kitchen floor, next to a cold cup of tea. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want you to grow up with shame. I looked around the table. I swallowed a lot of pain so you two could live proud. I let myself be the villain in every story because it kept the peace. Not anymore. Lisa opened her mouth. I raised a hand. I'm not done. I bought the building you tried to steal from me. I saw the documents, the consolidation, the way you framed it to help with long-term care. You wanted the profit. You didn't ask what I wanted. Everyone was staring, but I didn't feel exposed. I felt heard. I didn't complain. I adjusted. They forgot whose name was on the deed. I chose silence, not weakness. Tom finally spoke. Mom. But there was nothing left to say. I stood, dropped a folded napkin on the plate. My name may not mean much to you two anymore, but it means everything to me. And with that, I walked out. Past the shocked faces, past the silent stares, with my head held higher than it had in years. I didn't look back as I stepped out of that restaurant. Didn't need to. I already knew the scene I left behind. Frozen faces, awkward silence, eyes darting anywhere but at each other. Let them sit with it. Let them feel the weight I carried for decades. No one followed me out. Not even Lisa, with her fake smiles and tight hugs. And certainly not Tom. Because they knew. They finally knew. The walk home felt lighter than it had in years. No guilt, no self-doubt, just the soft sound of my shoes on pavement and the cool wind threading through my cardigan. I didn't even care that I forgot my scarf. I made a cup of tea, sat by the window, that old creaky chair. Same spot I raised a boy who now acted like I was furniture. That's the thing with silence. It used to hurt. Now it feels like freedom. Later that night, the phone rang. Lisa, I let it ring. Then Tom. Let that one ring too. They didn't want to talk. They wanted to manage the damage, control the story, keep the mask intact. But not this time. Not with me. The next morning, a text. Can we talk? No punctuation, no apology. Just 3 words that used to pull me back every time. Not anymore. I went about my day, folded laundry, watered the plants, read the paper, and smiled, because for once, I wasn't waiting for permission to be okay. The neighbors stopped by that afternoon. Apparently someone had overheard my little speech at the restaurant. Good for you, Mrs. Collins said. Took guts, her husband added. It spread fast. Small town energy. Funny how quickly whispers become respect when truth finally echoes. I didn't speak for applause, but I wasn't hiding anymore either. That evening, I looked through old photos. Tom as a toddler. Lisa is in her prom dress. Me, young, tired, always in the background. I tucked the album away. That woman in the pictures, she gave her life away piece by piece, but she's gone now, and in her place, a woman who finally knows her worth. I poured another cup of tea, still warm, still strong, just like me. It was 3 days later when he knocked. No call, no text. Just that soft, awkward knock like he wasn't sure if he should be there. I knew it was him before I even opened the door. Some instincts never fade. I didn't rush, didn't smooth my hair or wipe my hands. I opened the door just as I was, tea towel over my shoulder, glasses on the tip of my nose, and there he was. My son. The man I raised, looking like a stranger who'd lost his place in the world. "Hey, Ma," he said, eyes darting behind me like he expected someone else to be there. There wasn't, just me, as always. He stepped in when I didn't say no. Not quite invited, but not pushed away either. That's motherhood for you. He sat at the kitchen table like he had as a boy, except now he looked too big for the chair, too heavy with things unsaid. "I've been thinking," he started. I waited. He didn't apologize. Not really. Just talked in circles. Said he didn't mean anything by it. Said he was just stressed and that everyone laughs with their families. He kept reaching for soft spots, hoping to land on one. But I didn't offer any. I just listened. That was always my job, wasn't it? Listen. Nurture. Absorb the pain so they didn't have to feel it. But not today. When he finished rambling, he finally looked at me. That little boy was still in there somewhere, hoping I'd hug him and say, "It's okay." I didn't. Instead, I said this, "I'm not mad, Tom. I'm just done pretending." He blinked, that confused, almost wounded blink. "I raised you to be kind, to see people. But somewhere along the way, you started looking through me." His mouth opened. I kept going. "I showed up for you every time, and you mocked me, for laughs." I leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked. "You don't get to do that and expect me to serve you tea after." He was quiet for once. Actually quiet. I think it hit him. Not just the words, but the calm, the finality. "I still love you," I said, standing up. "But I'm not invisible anymore." He nodded, barely. Then stood up too. He looked around the kitchen, at the pie on the counter, at the chair he used to sit with jelly on his fingers. Then he walked out, didn't slam the door, didn't hug me, just left, and that was enough. The next morning, I brewed tea, same corner chair, same quiet hum from the old radiator. But something felt different. I didn't shrink in that silence. I fit in it. No texts came. No apology typed halfway and deleted. No just checking in. And I didn't expect one. That's the thing about letting go. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just lighter, like slipping out of shoes that never really fit. For years, I tried to hold the center. I gave my name, my time, my heart. I didn't complain. I adjusted, and they mistook it for weakness. But no more. Now I walk slower, but with purpose. I speak less, but every word matters. I still love him, but I no longer carry the weight for him. That's the boundary now. I see him sometimes, out with his wife, his daughter. They pass the cafe where I sit. He doesn't wave, but I see him glance. I see the discomfort, the awareness, that somewhere deep down, he knows. He knows I didn't raise him to become the man who laughed at his mother in public. He knows I let that room hear him, not to hurt him, but to wake him. And maybe one day, he'll get it. Maybe not, but I'll still be here, strong in silence, not waiting, just being. I've made new friends, started painting again, even took a short story class down at the rec center. They asked me what I wanted to write. I told them, a woman who everyone overlooked, until she decided to stop disappearing. They smiled. They didn't know I was telling the truth. My life isn't a second act. It's mine. Messy, unapologetic, beautiful. And I'm done asking for space. Now I take it. If you've ever been the one who gave too much, if you've ever been silenced by the people you love the most, know this. You are not invisible. You're just getting started. She found her voice in silence. If that moved you, hit subscribe. You belong in this story too.